welcome to Atlantic Television Network. It's another amazing episode of Atlantic Sunday. And this is a syndicated live program of the network that features chit-chatting, features conversations on special interest topics on news events and stories through correspondence reports, through expert opinion, and also stakeholders analysis. Let's take a look at some of the stories we will be discussing today with our guests. We'll take this one from Abia State, where it says government suspends all revenue agents over fraud. And then we'll take another one from Anambra State. Government uncovers over 400 ghost workers. From Oyo State now, UI urged not to expel students over protest. We'll take another one from Lagos State, where it states that government cracks down illegal bus stop and others. From the FCT, fire service bans traders from sleeping in the market. And then from National Assembly, reps vows to trace 1.5 billion naira diverted by government officials. Another interesting one is this one talking about electricity, where the president has stated that it is shameful that we still generate 4.5 GW. You find out more about that when we give details to that story. On local government autonomy, Speaker assured working to realize objectives. We'll take some time off now. When we return, the conversation begins. We'll introduce our guests also. Please stay with us.
Driver, why you just a jack?
Corruption not in my country.
I don't get a lot. Boy, they won't booga me. Small. They say, man, give them bribe. I say nothing. Okay, now, we'll go block later. You remember that contract we will do that time now? They don't pay.
Hey! But first, you see the house rent with the old things. We go first call caretaker. I take the money slap him.
Beg, see, you know, say I get annual levy why they pay for club. Where me and boys they shout beer in our house, I could pay that one. You remember say me I tell you I go buy you motor. I go buy now.
Okay, they pay you money now. We don't they beg caretaker. We they beg landlord, old man. And they agree give us time. Money can't come now. You won't divert time. You said na corruption. Corruption, not in my house and not in my country.
Sure?
Sure.
Corruption not in
right, quickly we'll introduce our guest who's already elegantly seated in the studio. We have with us no other than a man who loves to talk for development and would love to see the positive changes happening in Nigeria. I'm talking about Dr. John Idumange, and he is a rights activist, a journalist, an arbitrator, a management consultant, amongst many other things. And he's really looking good. Welcome to Atn Sunday.
You are welcome to Atlantic Sunday.
Welcome.
Good morning.
You're looking really good.
Thank you.
There's a story behind it.
No story. Sometimes you have to, the economy is very chaos and chaotic. So sometimes you have to deceive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You have to create a semblance of affluence, you know.
Okay.
So we don't get carried away with the price of Gary, the cost of living crisis and so on.
All right, let's go straight to Abia State now. Abia State Ministry of Environment, Umaya, has suspended with immediate effect all service providers, companies and revenue collection agents working for the ministry until further notice. In a statement that was signed by the Commissioner for Environment, Philemon Ogbonna, he said the ministry observed that some persons and companies who did not have government approval to collect revenue have been parading as authentic agents. Ogbonna directed any person and company claiming to provide service or collect revenues for the ministry to report the ministry for verification and validation of previous approvals of their activities. This is very worrisome because these are actually people that people would trust go into their offices to handle these cases or issues or whatever takes them there. So to have this in mind, only God knows for how long this has probably been going on. Let's get your thoughts on this particular story.
Well, this is a familiar area. You know, it happens at the state level. Okay. It is even more worrisome at the local government level, where, you know, there is no uniformity in the collection of levies and taxes. At the state level, there are some unscrupulous elements who go as far as printing receipts. They print receipts, Okada receipts, Keke receipts, and they collect this money legally. In most cases, those who are working in those offices have a hand in such dubious activities. I think we are not there yet, but my advice is that, see, when revenue collection, taxation is a critical component of internally generated revenue. So no government jokes with it. In America, if you are caught, found guilty of tax evasion, you go to prison. There may not be any option of fine because it is the money you collect that sustains your roads, maintains the system, takes care of social welfare, welfare of the elderly, and so on the orphanage homes and so on. So in Nigeria, we are not there yet because over there, everything is automated. You know, with ICT, wherever you pay your revenue, there is a central, it's like if you are at a stadium, there's a particular kind of dashboard that shows who has paid and who has not paid, how much you have paid, and so on. But our case is not like that. Even within Port Harcourt itself, was it last week we went to renew our vehicle particulars. Only network kept us for 1 week after payment. Yes, we waited for network for 1 week before we could get the relevant documents for just renewing particulars of a car. You see, that tells you that if you go to the banking sector, the same thing.
Yes.
Most of the things that are happening, fraudulent activities as a result of cyber crime activities by those who learn how to hack. Some even hack banks. It has happened in South Korea. It has happened in other countries like China and even the United States of America. So illegal collecting government money legally is not a new thing. What we need to do is let us iticize the system. We iticize it so that at any point you are paying, this physical, you know, hard copy receipt is not what is required. It should be either your BVN entered or your NIN card entered, the same way they operate bank accounts. That is the same way. But we still have a problem because we don't have a reliable database of those who are engaged in small-scale businesses. Yes, we don't have it because we don't have an agency that is fully responsible for all the small-scale businesses. In most cases, some people set up small-scale businesses, sourcing funds from brothers, sisters, and family members. So government does very little, if there is any. Government does very little. Artisans and so on. So if we can minimize it, we cannot totally eradicate illegal collection of levies, taxes, and so on, especially through these little sources. Okada riders, keke riders, taxi drivers, those who sell kiosk shops, wine shops.
People who hawk.
As for the hawkers, how will you collect the diesel from them?
They actually do, because the other day we saw in the news where someone was saying, why don't we stop taking taxes from the poor people? And then we heard that some of these people who even hawk do pay tax. In fact, multiple taxation. And there are reports that some of them even pay higher than what their profit was for that day. So at the end of the day, they don't have anything to go back home with, and it's really ridiculous. We've even had business owners, maybe shop owners, also complain of double taxation. This group are coming for their own, another group is coming for this particular levy, this particular tax, and it becomes worrisome because doing business becomes very difficult.
Yes.
And that's actually affects our economy at the end of the day. But when we talk about having a unified system where we can get to control all of these things, especially using IT, do you see us getting there anytime? Is it a level that we cannot attain now? Is there any limitation to that?
It is attainable. It is attainable. All we need to do is to weed out some corrupt elements, because even as you ITize the system, there are still some unscrupulous elements that will exploit the ICT system there to make it impossible for some people to pay through the unified system.
Yeah.
So.
And that's also a big problem.
Like in most states, you see, double taxation. You see the Minister of Environment collecting taxes. You see the Minister of Health collecting their own, I don't know what levy they call it. You see the Environmental Sanitation Authority also collecting their own in terms of pollution, waste disposal, and all manner of...
The area boys too, with their own communities.
Some years back, when I operated a small-scale business at Chinda Estate, they came up with artisan pollution. I said, what is artisan pollution? You did not provide power, that is why I'm using a generator. And he said, my generator is polluting the environment. Who is responsible? Ideally, government should be able to provide power for me to pay. That way, you also minimize the environmental degradation we are facing in our society. But the best bet for now is we have to ITize the system and get to talk to everybody and adopt a unified
can never put security measures on check. If security measures are on check, who would want to, override the system? And then
when it comes to ICT matters, it's even when you're operating your Facebook, sometimes Facebook will say, are you a human being or a robot? Such things can be controlled, but there are always limitations. The best control is human conscience, you who is operating the system. If you say, look, I have to take this amount of money in an unscrupulous manner into my pocket, you will be doing violence to the system, to governance. But somebody who has a conscience will say, look, this amount of money, this is the money that will go to the poor. This is money we use in funding education. This is money that goes to the elderly. With that conscience, with you, you will be able to solve that problem. But ITizing it, and again, there has to be a penalty for those unscrupulous elements. If you don't show example, in Nigeria, most of our laws, we have an array of laws that are very good, beautiful laws. But the implementation has been the Achilles heels of all these laws we have. By the time you show example one or two, like they have made a law concerning the death sentence of drug traffickers. By the time they cite example of 1, 2, 3, people will now sit up and say, oh, so this thing is working. So we have to do that
and
ensure we get revenue.
Okay, so let's move on to the next now. No fewer than 400 ghost workers have been identified as receiving salaries in the Anambra State Local Government Civil Service Commission. And it was gathered that out of the number, 59 are deceased, 5 are living abroad, and 40 are pensioners still drawing salaries. Additionally, several individuals are involved in certificate fraud, with investigations completed on 6 cases so far. And this was disclosed on Friday in Oka by the chairman of the commission, Vin Ezaka, who is also a legal practitioner. And he revealed that the ghost workers were discovered across the 21 local government areas in the state. And the investigation aimed to sanitize the local government system. It seems like a lot of sanitation is going on right now concerning government agencies and the operations of these agencies, considering the previous story we took and this particular story now where government uncovers 400 ghost workers. The story or the idea or the fact about having ghost workers is not news. A lot of people know what is going on in the civil service. There have been allegations here and there that there are some people who are probably not even in the country, as this story has stated, who are collecting salary.
Yes. I want to start by narrating our experience. I worked with Governor Henry Serake Dixon in Bayelsa State for 8 years. And way back in 1996 when Bayelsa State, I think it's your state too.
Yes, it is.
When Bayelsa State was created, till Dixon assumed office, the ghost worker syndrome did not just exist, it loomed very large. Yes, such that, you know, most people who work in the treasury, accountants, some people who even read history will drop their administrative job, go behind and read accounting. Well, accountants virtually owned 70% of all the houses in Bayelsa State, in Yenagoa. So when Dixon came in, in fact, from the time Bayelsa State was created till Dixon came in, there was nothing like a verification exercise.
Why was it, okay, was that why it was so rampant and you could actually thrive that much?
Yes, so he took the bulls by the horn. He was the only person, because if you have to do verification and purify or sanitize the system, you must have a lion's heart, such that even if your brother is involved, remove him. When he carried out the it was a massive fraud we saw. Payroll fraud. Some people were receiving salaries, double salaries. Some were old enough to retire 10 years ago. When we calculated the year they left secondary school and the year they graduated, some of them left secondary school at the age of 7, which is impossible.
Aside,
you and I know.
The one happening in Bayelsa State, in general,
no, I'm coming to.
What is going on with the civil service?
The civil service.
Why do you have corruption so, eating so deep into the system?
So the point I want to make is, see, from what I saw, Dixon, Governor Serake Dixon at that time, sanitized the system, thereby creating openings, creating positions, and they employed so many people. You see, some of these ghost workers, those who receive double salaries and so on, they are blocking the opportunities of other people. In Nigeria, one problem we have is this autonomy of local government. As for the local government system, it is near impossible to sanitize it, because every caretaker committee chairman that comes in employs 1 or 2 persons. Every local government chairman that comes, because more or less, why does it thrive? The state governors, now the state governors control the resources going to the local governments. So more or less, it is the state government that will determine the salaries they will pay. So the state governors, those working at the state, may not even be aware that there are ghost workers. Now, if autonomy is granted and the chairmen are aware of their workforce, they will be able to stop it. Because if 2 billion naira comes into a local government and they spend 1.8 billion to pay, what is left? What is left? So they will be in a position to now be watchmen of the local government system. One of the problems we have nationwide concerning this payroll fraud, ghost workers, and so on, is lack of database. We don't track information. Some people, I will not mention it, there are so many people I know who have been in the civil service right from when I was in secondary school.
Well, we know that when we talk about data, are you going to call the civil service in that category?
The civil service is worse than you think.
There's no data there.
There are.
With all of the registrations and going into this office and that office to sign this and that.
Now, why? Let me ask you, why is it that the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of the Interior, is saying they are coming with a triple identification something? When you know we have a voters card, we have NIN.
They're unifying it now.
We have NIN.
I think they heard the day you complained about it, and
okay,
they decided to unify.
Okay,
it.
If they are unifying it, let it be at the expense of government. Because people have no money to pay for double that. I have my international passport. I have my NIN. I have my voters card.
We paid in one way or the other to get all of these things.
We paid, not just paying. We spent resources. Time is an important resource. So in Nigeria, for us to cleanse the civil service, it may be worse at the federal level. You know why? Most people do not pay attention to what happens the civil service at the federal level. So it may this ghost worker syndrome.
Does that happen just at the federal level?
No, it happens everywhere. It may be worse there because not many people give attention to it. But as at now, the local government system is so rotten that so many governors do not even know how many local government workers they are paying.
These ministries were created for a reason.
Yes. And
these people were employed also for a reason, to carry out tasks. That's why they are there.
The problem
so why does it seem like there's sometimes there talks about them being very idle and doing nothing, and that's probably why we're having the problem
is like the problem is prebendalism. In America, this thing used to happen. In America, way back in 1855, they were operating the spoil system. When I become the president, I will remove all the key public officers in that government and bring my people. So more or less, as long as you endure in office, those who are in power are those who are loyal to you. Meritocracy was undermined. Not only that, recruitment processes were circumvented, such that some mediocrity now started working with two legs. You know, mediocres were brought to remove professionals and technocrats. That is the situation we have today. Today, the federal government is partly responsible for what is happening today in the civil service. One, we have the quota system. Okay, if we are employing, let's say 40 persons. Okay, one should come from each of the states. One from Bayelsa, one from Rivers, one from Kano, one from one, and so on. So now the person in power will nominate who becomes that employee. So by the end of the day, we don't have accurate data. Our population, let me tell you something about our population. In 1962, when Tafawa Balewa was Prime Minister, Mr. Warren, who was the head of the Population Bureau at that time was under the office of the Prime Minister. He conducted a census, and the census figures showed clearly that the South, in line with established demographic trends, the South had more population than the North. Why is it so? Because it is established in so many studies that in a forest region, the population is likely to be denser than an arid region like the Sahel, where there is just a vast land and people just sand and heat and so on. Now, that result, the unannounced result of the population census, did not go down well with Tafawa Balewa. So what did he do? He gave 24 hours to the head of the Census Bureau, who was a white man, a Briton, and asked him to leave the country. And they cancelled the results. And they scheduled another census for November 1963. And that is, Nigeria today, the population we have today is an extrapolation of that population. Since then, we have not conducted any accurate and credible census. We cannot extrapolate. What I mean by extrapolation is, if a particular community is 10,000, and the population grows at 2.5%, you now work out the mathematics. In 10 years' time, what will be the population of, they don't take into account the birth rate, they don't take into account the death rate, they don't take into account immigration and migration. So that is why our demography is today affected.
Talking about data with the civil service.
Yes.
When you say there is no data.
No, I did not say that there are no accurate and credible data.
Okay, so that means you don't even trust the data system of the civil service.
How will you trust a system that is fraught with fraudulent, non-existent, does go receive salary?
He said non-existent.
Some don't exist. In Bayelsa State, under Dixon, we discovered that so many workers they had other jobs, and we did not miss words. I love that governor. May God bless him. It was so fantastic. We reduced the workforce and employed so many young graduates. And that is what, that example, they should go and study what Dixon did in Bayelsa. And that is what so many state governors should copy.
Back to the civil service.
Yes.
And some of the issues that are there. We've also heard so many cases and seen allegations here and there being thrown, especially by junior staff in the civil service complaining. It almost seems like they don't have a voice or where they can lay their complaints when they feel like they're not being heard, maybe in the office space or by their superiors around there. How do you think that this problem can be solved?
That is not totally true.
Okay.
Because we have the public service rules.
All right.
These rules guide employment of civil servants, the conduct of civil servants, promotion issues.
How effective has it been?
Promotion issues and discipline. Of course, you know that anything with Nigeria, we cannot guarantee.
You started your statement with that is not entirely true. And now you're saying you know Nigeria, we cannot guarantee that.
No, when I say it is not entirely true, because there are rules and regulations.
Of course.
The only thing is enforcing these rules and regulations may not be very effective. But in some cases, when people commit crimes, in the establishment where I worked as a general manager, some issues I could have addressed immediately. We are referred to the civil service. And some criminals walked away free. So enforcement is the problem. All these laws exist at both the federal level, state level, and the local government levels. But enforcing these laws will now interrogate, the competence and the credibility of those who are in charge of punishing people, those who are in charge of promotion, and so on and so forth. Some people who, deserve to be promoted, we are denied promotion in some cases.
A lot of people
we are denied promotion. In most cases, sexual harassment is also a situation. And not too long ago, one of the, was there an ambassador also in the Ministry of Finance, it was a popular, I think you should know something about it. So such matters, there should be an ombudsman, the Public Complaints Commission, where people should be able to write and submit their petitions. So anybody who is accused of any disease will be tried and dealt with.
It is available.
In fact, in the university system, this issue of sexual harassment is so common.
True.
Yes. So lecturers should be monitored and dealt with if possible. Yes. How can you harass my daughter, or how can you harass my wife because she's a student?
Some people have complained, both the two scenarios you painted now, the civil service, the universities, they've complained that when they report, in fact, I was speaking to someone recently and she was telling me about this. This was actually happening to her. Concerning she herself and a lecturer or something like that, and I was trying to advise her on what to do, and she was so scared. She said, this man is one of the top officials in the school. In fact, he's almost like the second in command here. So like how would she report such an individual? Who would she even report him to? And if she makes the report, will adequate steps be actually taken to solve that particular problem? So that is the issue we have when we talk about enforcement.
Yes, that is why even in the police, for instance, if you see somebody shoot another person and the person is walking free and there's a police station there, the policeman might have heard the noise of the gun, but they will not act. When you go there to report, they will say, make your statement. How did you know? Yourself, who is an ordinary man who reported an issue, becomes a suspect. So in the university, in every establishment, when you are dealing with these people, today we have a means of getting evidence. You have your cell phone. I am not saying people should record. Unauthorized recording is also, as a journalist, I'm a journalist. As a journalist, I know it is wrong. But when it is necessary, you inform a third party. Inform a third party to ensure such records are taken, because you need evidence to be able to prove your case. But again, let me advise that anybody who is a victim should speak up, because if you fail to speak up, you are, endangering other people who are coming behind you.
Exactly.
You are endangering them. Why we are talking, why I like coming here to talk, why I go to the radio station to talk, why I've been a talkative, some can call me a talkative, is because with a clear conscience, tomorrow, when the history of Nigeria will be told, they will say, but this man never supported bad governance. This man never supported fraud. Then history, if nobody vindicates me, history will vindicate me.
So let's talk about the sanitization of the civil service. Now, you've mentioned having adequate data available so that we can monitor properly.
Yes.
What else do you think can be done in sanitizing?
Yes, data, mining data or getting accurate data is a product of, procuring sophisticated ICT equipment. You must have gadgets to store information. Today, if you go to Oxford University, let's assume you graduated from Oxford University or Cambridge in 1901. Just go there and mention your name and your number. Every data about you comes out. But just go to University of Benin or any other nearby university. There are some universities that will have it. They still have, of course, they will have it. But in most cases, when there is anything like fire incidents and so on, they don't have backups. Again, power supply has been, because of lack of power supply, because some of this equipment need air conditioners. They need to stay in air-conditioned offices to be able to sustain them. So we have a lot of problems in terms of, maintaining a data bank as a nation, as a state, as a local government. In some cases, even in some homes, they find it difficult to maintain. In some cases, when you say, when was that your son born, you begin to think, I thought it was 1995 or 90. So data, this is where the advanced countries have an edge over us. They have data. They know how to plan. One of the problems in America today is because people are migrating into America. And it is very difficult to keep a database of those who are entering America. And that may undo the Biden administration. Yes, because those who are migrating to America, some of them are drug addicts, some of them are insane people, some of them are criminals in their countries. So having a database is like, as a housewife, if you know that we are 6 in number, you know how many cups of rice you cook to be able to satisfy. Lack of data will make you to misplan. No coordination, and automatically, poor preparation will make the system to fail.
There's so much that should be looked into. In fact,
yes,
when we talk about the civil service system, we can talk about that for 2 hours, and it will not be enough. We'll still have so much to discuss, because I have so much to talk about as regards the civil service. There's so many things that have been listed as things that are not going right. They've talked about misappropriation of funds. There are so many problems. And I believe that if we start looking at how to solve these problems, it will not look so far from what Dr. John has stated about having adequate data. Now, the Global Rights Nigeria has joined in the call on management of University of Ibadan not to expel students for their involvement in the protest. The call was made in a press statement by the program officer in charge of civil space and press freedom of the organization, Damilola Deke. He actually urged the school authority not to victimize the students through expulsion. He added that the security agents that arrested them on 13th May 2024 because they protested should issue a swift and unreserved apology. It would be recalled that some students, namely Aduo Ayodele and Olamide and Nice Linus, were invited for questioning over their participation in a peaceful protest in the university. The protest was Precipitated by increment of school fees by the University Authority, and the 3 students and one Olorunfemi Adeyeye were arrested by security agents. I don't know if we've ever heard of such a case before where students had a peaceful protest. Please underline that. It was not rowdy. There was no hijacking of the protest where police had to come in and throw tear gas and all of that. It was stated clearly that it was a peaceful protest. Have you ever heard of a situation like that and then the students were arrested?
I would certainly recommend that if the VCs are aware of that process, what the arrest of those students, that VC should be suspended. Yes, you see, first of all, as human beings, we have inalienable rights.
Yes.
These are rights that were not conferred on us by the Constitution. They are natural rights we ought to enjoy. And one of them is free speech.
Of course.
Even in the Garden of Eden, God did not impose anything on Adam. He said, Adam, have you eaten of the fruit? He wanted Adam to say the woman, he shifted the blame and so on. So you have free speech, which is guaranteed in all the constitutions of democratic countries. Then 2, you have the freedom to assemble. It is only in the free speech, freedom of expression and the press that a group of people can express free and frank opinions about how they feel about a particular issue, about their beliefs, about their ideologies, about what they think is right and what they think is not right. Then the freedom of assembly also enables people to form political parties. If we are in a church and we come together, we are free. It's a freedom we have to enjoy. Even animals, tigers, lions, they come together in their pride. Even fishes come together to hold their meetings in their own way. So human beings, being higher animals, are entitled to free speech as well as freedom of what? Peaceful assembly. So protesting peacefully is a natural right given to us by God. You protest. That is guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution. You know, chapter 4 of the Constitution deals with about 11 fundamental human rights. Again, it is in line with the United Nations Charter, as well as the human rights and humanitarian law. So, except a protest goes violent and people begin to destroy public property, there was no need in the first place to get anybody arrested. What ideally they should have done was to invite, in every group there must be a leader, was to invite the leaders and discuss with them to find out the causes of the protest. What is the cause of the protest? The cause is already known. You just woke up one morning and hiked the school fees. I mean, Ibadan is a premier university established in 1948 as a campus of the University of London. So, such protests, I don't think they are harmful. It was peaceful, and the reason they protested was also genuine. Because when you just increase school fees, chances are that some students will not be able to pay.
Sure.
And that will deny them the savoring of their academic and intellectual endeavors. So, my advice to the authorities in the University of Ibadan and the police, sometimes I blame the police too. Sometimes they might have asked them to go and chase the people away. They have gone to make arrests because they want to make a point.
If they made an arrest, there is no way anyone would say that they were not aware that the police had arrested these students. How did the news carry it? How did the media find out? If you in the school did not find out, as the VC or the people in charge were not aware that the students were arrested, then how did the media find out?
I think
before you,
I think
who is the leader of the university?
What will happen next is, you know, in Nigeria, no matter how decrepit, how decadent our society is, civil society is still alive.
Sure.
A few men of conscience, few women of conscience are still alive. So civil society will take it up. If they try to take them to court, they are wasting their time. What they should address in the first place is what warranted the increase of school fees, because that is a causal agent of that protest. They have not committed any crime protesting. except there are other reasons they have refused to disclose. If they say, okay, as a result of the protest, so property, public property was destroyed, that's a different ball game. But they have no right to arrest them in May. Until today, they are still keeping them in detention.
Don't you think that this, when something like this happens, when they have to be, or there's a need for an increase in school fees, is it wrong for the students to be called and then being explained to? But sometimes these decisions are taken, and when the students come out to ask questions, it almost feels like they don't have a say here. Or even if you feel like they don't have a say, they are being affected, and definitely they will react. Because I also went through the university system, and I know how it was. In fact, at that point, there was a particular time we had a particular VC who was in the news for almost every time he was in the news.
For the wrong reasons.
And, you know, it always feels like we don't have a voice. As students, you're not supposed to say anything. Just whatever you see, just take it and just keep quiet. Don't say anything. So don't you think that before steps like this are taken, the students should be called and this dialogue should actually take place?
In the university system, let me tell you, students even have more rights than any other member of the congregation. Because without the students, will the teachers be there? So inviting the students, that is why I always tell vice chancellors, in your university, if you know there is no SUG, Students Union Government, ensure that they do peaceful election and have one. Because the SUG, the existence of the SUG even helps the VC in managing the temperaments, the expectations, and the decisions taken by the students. But in some cases, because of politics, the VC or the provost or the rector may want to dictate who becomes the president of the Students Union government. If not, in a case like UI is the oldest university in Nigeria. In a case like the UI, decision making should not be unilateral. The university is made up of different interest groups. Sure. The lecturers have their interest groups, the other non-academic staff have their interest groups, the students have their interests, other people have their interest. External interest, government is interested, industry is interested, corporate Nigeria is interested, and donor agencies are also what you can see the stakeholders I've mentioned. So there are decisions you do not take. Even council is involved. Senate is also involved. There are decisions you cannot take unilaterally without informing all the clientele, all the various stakeholders of the university. And if, in the case of school fees, the students are the people to pay, so that is the primary constituency every vice chancellor should consult.
But how much involvement have we had concerning the school and then the students, involving the students in the running of the affairs, especially in cases like this?
That's what I have just said. That in a case like what has happened in University of Ibadan, if there was an SUG government, the SUG government should be involved. The SUG will in turn nominate one or two persons that will discuss with them. It is more like collective bargaining. You are increasing your fees, yet yes, you have the right to increase your fees, but I also have the right to say no. What you have done is too much.
Okay, so let me rephrase that question now that I asked.
Okay.
From your analysis, would you say that this has actually been practiced in our universities?
In some universities, yes. When I attended the University of Ibadan, under Professor Andrew Nogorai, it was practiced. So many other VCs are practicing it. You don't adopt a centralized decision-making process. No. Most of the time, universities that are governed by educationists and those in the humanities have better administrations than those who read the sciences.
Why? What do you say?
Because
what does it have to do with what they learn?
Yes, what you learn has a lot to do with the decisions you take. For instance, if you employ an engineer, if you make an engineer your VC, for him, everything is engineering. The students are like, I am not saying it is not. And that was why okay. One of the conditions the federal government gave, see, if you go to the advanced countries, every university lecturer, if you are a professor, you must study a little of education. Especially PGD, you must have your PGD education. You must learn how to prepare your lesson notes. You must know that the students are not mere furniture. They have feelings, they have their backgrounds, and they have their idiosyncrasies. So to be able to interact with them, there are some lecturers who feel that when they teach a course and so many students fail, they feel very happy that students have failed. Unknown to them that the more students you fail, or the more students who fail your course, you are indicting yourself. Because it means that your lecture, your teaching was not effective.
But are they even aware? Is there some sort of training for lecturers?
Some years back, I told you, professors went back to the classroom to learn education, PGD. That way you'll be able to impart. Reading physics or reading engineering, you are dealing with metals and other things. But when you are teaching, you are dealing with human beings to whom you have to impart what? Knowledge. And that was why one of the conditions for university autonomy at a point was that every professor should learn how to teach by way of going back to read PGD education.
So that's actually being practiced?
Yes, so many professors went back to read PGD.
But it's not like it was compulsory.
It is because, no, it was compulsory. That is why today university autonomy, I'm not saying it is because of that alone, but that is also part of why government finds it very difficult to grant full university autonomy. Because if they grant university autonomy, the university will be able to generate a lot of money to fund itself. If they give universities autonomy, their school fees will be high. And government is also considering the fact that our economy is not too strong. We have about 136, 37 million people who are poor, absolute poverty, who cannot, feed well. By the African Development Bank standard, when you are spending less than $1.9 dollars per day, you are considered poor, very poor, absolutely poor. Yes, it used to be $1 per day. Now it's $1.9 dollars per day.
And a lot of people actually live below
below that threshold, much below that. Some don't even have half a dollar.
It will shock you that some people don't even spend it someday.
In most cases,
but back to, I'm really interested
the university.
Yes, especially when you said that it's actually compulsory for them to go through some sort of training. You said take the education course or something like that.
Yes, postgraduate diploma.
Okay. So
that while you are teaching, because those of us who I read education first. Those lecturers who read education, they are more humane when it comes to considering the welfare of students, because the entire process of education is the teacher and the student.
Is it just for professors?
No, it's for
if you're going to be a lecturer,
yes,
you must do that.
It has to be a condition. But till today, you discover that if you go to the university, the departments where they say, "Oh, things are very difficult," they are not. You can hardly find that in the Faculty of Education, because in some cases there's what we call workplace spirituality. Even as you are coming to read a course during your orientation, a counselor can ask you questions and give you a career direction. But all these things.
Do we even have that?
Yes, it's compulsory. In every university, there is a counseling unit. The only problem is that the students that are admitted are too many. In most cases, the counseling units do not even have equipment to operate, and that is why implementing those career counseling and so on becomes very difficult.
So what then are they doing there if they are not operating?
Some of them are still doing it. If you go to every university, the counseling unit is supposed to be very effective, but today, because of dearth of resources, they are not as effective as they should have liked to be.
But actually
they are there in every university.
And they are not effective.
In every university, you must have people who read guidance and what counseling. There are some children who are thrown into career confusion. In some cases, a parent will say, "I read medicine, so my son will also read what?"
It is rampant. It is rampant in Nigeria. So when you're saying that there's a counseling, how many students even know that even exists?
It does exist.
The university?
It does exist, because during some students too, because of the euphoria of being admitted, they don't partake in their orientation in some cases. As they go there, they are looking at the iPhone, the phones, the quality of phones
said
they
that
have.
they're not as effective as they should
No,
actually
I'm not
be.
saying they are not working.
As effective as
they should have been.
Then how would they attend to these students?
Again,
how would they perform their function?
I have mentioned one obvious obstacle there, that the number of students we admit is way above the capacity of those people who function in the guidance and counseling department or unit. So in most cases, some students feel that, why should I go to this guidance and counseling people? Don't I know what I'm doing? It's like recommending a husband and wife to go to a counselor.
Can sometimes be difficult.
So are you saying I'm mad? In some cases, when they say let's go for counseling, they say
you go alone.
You go alone. Yes, you are the problem. In some cases, when a man and a woman do not have children too, in Africa, because of the patriarchal nature of our society, the woman is always blamed. Not knowing that in some cases, 70 to 75% of whether you bear a child or not depends on a man.
According to Dr. John's, according to your
no, not according to me. That is a proven fact in science.
Okay, so back to, because the truth is, aside the fact that some parents like to choose courses for their children, there are still students who the university gave a different course.
That is my query now.
A course that is different from what they chose.
That is my query. When you are filling your JAMB form, normally you are given your first choice. After your first choice, you may also have the opportunity of say, in case I miss this first choice, let me take a second choice. But what is obtainable in our universities today, they don't, maybe you applied for nursing, first degree nursing. And the next thing you see is you are in the Department of Sociology. Something entirely.
I know of someone who applied for architecture in a university, and he was given plant science.
Plant science. In some cases, animal science, zoology.
Actually, every course is important. You get every course is actually important, but it's just the idea of it being completely different, like out of the faculty of what this person even applied for.
Throwing these children into career suicide, career confusion. That's what.
And then they come out and they're lost in the society. They don't really, and some of the students are not even happy about the courses that they are studying.
And that is why they don't pay attention in most cases, because they are studying what they did not bargain for. When they finish that program, you see them going back again to read another course, a course of their choice. At that time, they would have been well equipped to pass JAMB. They require the cutoff point and so on. So in most cases, this idea of parents choosing a course in 1987, 88, I think it was 1989. One student in University of Port Harcourt committed suicide because the parents wanted him to read medicine because the father was a medical doctor. He wanted him to read medicine, but the boy kept failing. Until one day the boy went and took some pills and slept, and just slept off.
Because we've had, that's a very sad one. We've had various cases of students graduating and they're like, they don't even know what they are doing. They're lost. They don't hope to continue
the emphasis here is universities, JAMB and the university should work in sync with the policies and programs of these institutions. Even the idea that JAMB should conduct exam, for me is a bit strange.
Why?
If JAMB can relinquish that power to allow the universities to conduct their own entrance exams.
But they do that. They do. The universities conduct their own
exams. After writing JAMB, they now write university gate exams, CBT, computer-based test. After writing that, they now combine, there's a way they work out the two scores to arrive at the mark of the person. So in the first place,
what two scores are you talking about now?
The JAMB score is combined with the post-UME score. That's what we call university gate exam. So subjecting the children to double jeopardy. One, you have to write one course to know whether you will enter or not. If your cutoff mark is not up to the stipulated cutoff mark in the first place.
Why do we even have universities giving students courses that they did not?
You are talking of courses. Sometimes most of the students did not make the cutoff point of universities, and they are eager. There are times parents are pushing. There are times brothers and sisters in university are pushing. So, okay, give him anything, give him anything. In that case, they give the child, in some cases, they give the child agric science or agronomy or something to read while they are preparing for another word, jam. That it is better to occupy the child doing something than to leave him to prepare for another job, because that is another 1 year. And that is why what I will emphasize here is the National Open University should expand its services. And the universities that are in existence should also reinforce their counseling units to ensure that students who are new students, the orientation we do in our university just like a child's play. The orientation should be personal. At the level of career, career guidance should be personal. Why are you studying in your year one? Somebody will ask you, this course you are studying will require this. When you leave school, these are the things, opportunities you have to. Are you ready? If that student is not ready, transfer the person to another faculty or another department. But our universities are falling short of that glory. That is the point.
A lot of students come out and tell you that for their course, the places where they are supposed to work, they don't really have that in Nigeria. They have that outside the country. So why do we even have courses
there is
like
no place. There is no place. Reading
place?
Engineering does not make you an engineer. If you want to professionalize, for instance, as an engineer, you will still enroll in the Nigerian Society of Engineers and begin to write professional courses to become an engineer. Our problem is, most of us, when we send our children to school, we don't know how to manage their expectations. That's what we call expectation management. A graduate of politics, political science, sometimes when he asks, why are you reading political science? I want to become a politician. That is not true. A political scientist can be an administrator. You can also be a data science person, depending on what you come out to learn again. Learning does not end. That I'm a university, I read education, does not keep me in the classroom forever. No. I read education, I still went to read journalism, practice journalism. I am also an arbitrator, a chartered arbitrator. I can still function as an arbitrator. Depending on the opportunities available. So that you have read sociology does not mean you should join the police alone. You can. There are also opportunities for you to join NAFDAC and other institutions.
They should be told, because sometimes these students, I don't call them kids now, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to even apply. They're lost. It almost seems like they were not given prior information.
Yes.
Let's go on a break now. When we return, the conversation continues. More stories on our tables. Please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
I don't get a lot. Boy, they won't booga me small. They say, man, give them bribe. I say nothing. Okay now. I will go block later.
Corruption not in my country.
What do you want to buy?
Potato. Small basket. I want plantain. But why your plantain can't hard like this? Why?
Madam, the outside hard, inside there it is very soft.
Madam, wallahi make her no buy am. Make her show you something. What? What in be this one? Madam, this one now the chemical they put on for the plantain make her ripe.
Hey? So you dey put chemical for plantain where people go chop?
No water, no be chemical.
Even now water. You know say Pela I don't talk and say water and not be enemy. Drink am.
I collect that water, drink am.
I just stop finish. See my belly. It don't big. I just stop drink water finish. I don't
drink
full.
we can didn't come on. At the Salam Plantain, I go competent for chemical because I want to make a ripe co. That's why I talk. And now corruption. Not before this kaswa. Come not before this country. Now me take
Corruption not in my country.
This message is brought to you by the Atn Sunday Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television Network.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Thank you so much for staying right here with us. The conversation actually continued when we went on a break, but we're back to bring you into this conversation. Let's move on to the next story now. Lagos State Task Force has vowed to clamp down on commercial bus drivers disposed to parking illegally along the roads of the Lagos metropolis. The chairman of the agency, CSP Adetayo Akerele, actually declared the resolve to sanitize the roads of Lagos, warning perpetrators of illegal parking to desist. He also issued the warning on Friday during an enforcement for compliance exercise he led at the Adeniji Adele and joining routes to read the axis of traffic gridlocks and criminal activities caused by illegal operators of bus parks and bus stops along that axis. He says that the traffic phenomenon is not natural, stated that activities of commercial motor operators along the route had been going on for too long. Therefore, it was time to put an end to it. Sometimes when I see things like this happening in Rivers State, I just wish I could see a statement like this. Because even as much as they're talking about that particular area in Lagos State and the effect of the parking of those vehicles, the way they don't park properly, illegal bus stops and all of that, we still have a lot of places in Lagos where you cannot do certain things. You cannot park wrongly. You can't even cross the road at certain points. You will be arrested. There are certain things that you cannot do, even in Lagos, even though they have mentioned it. So sometimes when I see the illegal bus stops here, sometimes when a driver wants to stop for a passenger to alight, he'll stop at the middle of the road.
Yes, that's exactly what we faced this morning as we are close to Brikwari. Yes.
He'll stop at the middle of the road, and the passenger will comfort, like it's normal.
It's a normal.
So why does it seem like nobody's saying anything about this big issue? Because this could cause a serious accident.
No, fundamentally, you know, Nigeria is a developing nation. I don't know the speed with which
development is
we
going.
are. Ever since I was born, to know ABC, I was told we are developing. Good enough. But we have not paid serious attention to urban development.
Okay.
You know, everywhere. If you go to every populated city, Badon, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, you face these problems. It's because we have not put the required infrastructure in place to ensure. How many state governors, as we speak now, close to our estate, some houses have been demolished. Now, close to our estate, there is a high tension there. Very terrible, but people are building under the high tension. But there's a specific number of meters you have to observe to be able to build your house. People are just not interested in abiding by the law.
Are they even aware that that house
so many of them are aware. Yes, some of them are aware that they are building their houses in very risky areas. But maybe because of the expediency of getting accommodation or lack of it, they have decided to do it. In most of our urban areas, when these politicians come in, especially by virtue of the Land Use Act of 1978 as amended, of course, the governor owns the land. So the governor uses any logic he fancies to begin to allocate land for projects and to individuals who are, you know, his political allies or loyalists. That is what happens. Now, with respect to urban areas like Port Harcourt, Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, and Kano, those are densely, and even Kaduna, densely populated. We expect some level of infrastructure, beginning with when they are constructing a road. How many cities in Port Harcourt, we used to have parks, you know, motor parks. I'm not talking of the one you would drive by this bus stops. I think during the time of Amechi, there were bus stops. But now I'm no longer seeing them. I'm not seeing them any longer. So at the point of constructing the road, we should be able to create that allowance and create bus stops. So from year to year, a vehicle can park and pick passengers. But it is not like that. Look at the whole of this road. From the whole of from Ozoba to Adajoj. Did you see any bus stop? There's no bus stop. And that is why these unscrupulous drivers, some of them high on Igbo, high on tobacco or any other kai-kai.
They stop anyhow.
They will stop anyhow,
anywhere.
Shout on people anyhow. It's becoming, as for Port Harcourt, it is becoming so lawless. I wish Governor Fubara should give some attention to it and ensure that, especially the Ministry of Works, in the course of constructing a road, should make provision for, see, in a place like Johannesburg, you cannot drive and park your car by the road. And if you want to take a taxi to, let's say, University of Wits or University of Johannesburg, there is no way you can stand by the roadside and take a taxi. Before you take a taxi, you will walk into a car park. And when you drop your taxi fare, as the bus is moving out, it is also paying a toll gate, a toll fee. That is the way it's as organized as that.
That's even too far. In some parts of Nigeria, some states, we actually have that operational. Even some parts, some areas of River State here, there are some places where you have to go into the park before you can board a vehicle. And then in Lagos, like I said,
yes,
in fact, you cannot just, like we can stand and stop a vehicle on the road just like that. You can't do that in a lot of places in Lagos. You can't just stand and stop a vehicle. You have to walk down to where the bus stop is before you can find a vehicle to pick you up. But the way it is so rampant here, and it almost feels like everybody has gotten used to it, even you as a passenger, when you're stopped at the middle of the road, how are you comfortable to open the vehicle and calm down? And some people don't even, we've had various accidents happen like that, where people are not even attentive enough to what's going on the road. They just open the vehicle and calm down, and then there's an oncoming vehicle. So it is very risky for the driver, for the passenger, and all of that. And actually, a lot really needs to be done. But what about also sensitizing the public now? Yes, through I think one surest way of doing that is, both the road safety and the police, especially the road safety, that's their job. But in Nigeria, you see the road safety demanding for what? Demanding for human head from how do you mean now? You have to explain that.
Human head in quotes.
Pick your words.
When they stop a vehicle, because they have ulterior motive of stopping that vehicle. Because what I see here all the time, especially this Obirikwere area, any clean vehicle where you see a young man driving, with who is neatly dressed, who is maybe below 35 or so, they regard that person as a Yahoo person. Park your car. The next thing is, are you not a Yahoo? I mean, so that is what is happening in our society. So much as we are talking about providing bus stops and expanding the available car parks and so on, we need to also sensitize the public. Especially today. Okay, sorry to cut you there now. You talked about the road safety. Yes. Stopping these vehicles. Not because they want to check anything in particular. Initially, when the road safety came up, yes, I think at a point I vouched for it. I said the road safety is the only body that does where the officers don't go near bribe. But for instance, I've seen where somebody will be stopped about waiting day. I have experienced it. In fact, your people are here. They are not checking anything. Some of our boys or some of our guys are now used to it. Because I saw one the other day. They stopped him. His vehicle was with a girl, and then he just comfortably walked into. They took him into their bus, and he just comfortably walked in like he's used to it. Like this has been happening to him. And it's just very sad. You just saw that. Don't worry, I'm coming. He just gave us some directives on what to do, and he just majestically walked into the car like he was escorted by some bodyguards or something. So that is what is. See, our public institutions must have discipline, especially the officers. Yeah. And that again, it boils down to we have been talking about the recruitment process. Recruitment should not be done on man-no-man basis. Okay. It should be done in such a way that we recruit. There are fine people, beautiful people in Nigeria. There are young men with morals, with character, and with poise, with courage to be able to, enforce the law. You don't think the system sometimes changes the system? Yeah, yes. When they come into such a system, there was I think that was 2014. I was coming from Yanagua, and I was stopped at a check-in point. And when they checked and everything was okay, the young policeman said, "Okay, go." The older policeman said, "Why are you asking him to go? Let him pay money." Wow. The young man said, "But okay, there's nothing wrong with this man. He has all the particulars." So I know that by the end of that day, it is either the big man, the older, the most senior police officer will report him or penalize him. So that next time it does not bring him to the road again.
And that's the system changing him because he will learn.
Yes. Now,
be more quiet
now the system will now turn him into a morally correct person to a moral deviant, where you receive money from pedestrians, from taxi cabs, and there is a particular big bag. So in some cases, waterproof bag where they keep the money.
You have seen that.
Yes, we have seen that very often.
John,
no, we have seen that now. We have seen that. I've been on the road. I've been around for some time, long before you were.
Of course, obviously, the camera has already said that.
So the point is, the system has a corrupting influence on even the finest people. But if you are a man of conscience, I know it's very difficult. If you are somebody who insists on what is right to do, although the system will do battle with you, so many people are doing battle with us for speaking the truth. Yes, it did not start today.
I can imagine.
So many battles we are fighting. Some of them are battles we never bargained for. But because you are speaking the truth, you are now seen as an enemy. But ultimately, the truth will prevail. But so much sacrifice you are going to make. Sometimes you will even be close to the grave before you are vindicated.
All right, Dr. John, let's go back to the sensitizing the public you were talking about now before.
Cutting jingles and road shows can also be done. Get pamphleteering, do some use pamphlets to sensitize the people. Though that's not very effective. It's only effective in the urban areas where people know how to read and write. But radio jingles with special English, especially, not with grammar, with special English. Oh boy, why they throw away that dirty for road now? When Donald Duke, for instance, was governor of Cross River State, oh boy, for you to drop, some people very carelessly, after drinking a sachet of water, they throw the sachet. Okada people will pursue you until they will get you, bring you back to pick that up. Sure. That was the discipline at that time, not anymore. And that was why during that period when Donald Duke was president, governor of Cross River State, Calabar was the cleanest city then. I've not visited that of recent now, but I think that glory might have gone with the man. So whatever happens in any government depends on the personal idiosyncrasies of the person. If a VC is good, it means he's a good man, not because the system turned into be a good man. If the headmaster is good, it's because the headmaster is a man of conscience who can differentiate between right and what? Wrong. It's not as if it is the system that is making him to be good. If you have a president who is good, he's naturally a good person. Even if the institutions are rotten, he will come in and begin to repair them. And you will also see that these institutions are being repaired.
Would there be a need to put up another agency, especially for this?
No, we have multiplicity of agencies. We have even I've lost count of agencies that are responsible for. The police is there. In some cases, vigilante groups are there. In the River State, OSPAC is there. So many park vigilante and so on. The road safety is so you don't even know. Their uniforms are so the variety, so multicolor uniform. So we don't need new agencies at all. We need the agencies that are there are enough to get the job done.
But looking at the measures that the Lagos State government is actually putting in place now to crack down the illegal buses.
Lagos is a special place. You know that is about 75% of all the industries in Nigeria are in Lagos. Foreign direct investment flows into Lagos. Ordinarily, Port Harcourt should also benefit from that. But we know the policy flip-flop that has occurred. But with a good leader here and a good leader at the center, there can be partnership to revive Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt used to be, see, when we left secondary school and came to Port Harcourt, You could walk from education to town in the night, 1 o'clock. No policeman will stop you. Everywhere there was light. That was when we knew Port Harcourt as Garden City. You people are too young to know that. At least I. Sometimes I also
had to bring that up.
Sometimes you know, and sometimes I tell people that yes, people are suffering, but even myself, before I graduated, I received bursary. Not only from my state government, I received bursary from my student, from my local government chairman too.
Have they stopped paying bursary now?
Bursary, I don't know what your governors will do, but I think in Rivers State, they want to begin to pay bursary. That's a good initiative. In Bayelsa, we have a scheme called the Higher Education Loan Scheme, where, you know, that one is better than, some is better than bursary, because if you have accommodation issues, they will come in, pay your school fees and pay your accommodation. I don't know.
Students pay back, because that's the most important.
That is the aspect I've been critiquing, because that money, even if it's a dash, government should do it, because paying back is very difficult, especially when the person leaves office, leaves a school. There's no ready job for him to do. There's no ready salary for him to get. In some cases, they graduate bifurcates into the informal sector, where you have no data to track his progress and so on. So all those monies, I expect the federal government to float their scheme. Even if it is dashed, let them dash the students and not take it back. Okay. After all, the money they are spending here and there, traveling here and there, is not...
also against the student loan.
Dash the students who go to school.
Instead of the loan, just give it as grants.
Give it to them. Let them not pay back.
Okay.
We are able.
We're able,
We are strong enough to do that.
Okay. Let's look at the next story now. The Federal Capital Territory Fire Service Department on Friday announced a ban on traders sleeping in the FCT market to reduce fire outbreaks in the markets. Adebayo, the acting director of the department, announced this in a news conference in Abuja, and he said that the ban was in line with the implementation of emergency jurisdiction of the department's mandates. He described the development as very alarming, adding that it not only violates regulations but posed significant risk to personal safety and property. He expressed concern over the 226 fire incidents recorded in the FCT from January to June, and he added that sleeping in the market, amongst other careless human practices, contributed to high incident of fire outbreak. He said that the fire service would enforce no sleeping regulations within markets and also advocated the provision of alternative accommodation for traders where necessary. According to him, building of shanties within the market increases the risk of burning and uncontrollable blazes. When I first saw the story about no sleeping in the market, before I went into the details to find out that, while making inquiries on this story or research, to find out that he actually stated that accommodations to be provided to avoid cases like this. Anyone who sees the headline, no sleeping in the market, will ask, how is that even possible? It's very funny saying people in the market, people who stay there from morning till some markets close at 6, 5, as the case may be. But some markets, they don't close. It's until they're tired and they want to go home. So you say they shouldn't sleep all through. Is this one of the measures that could stop this particular incident or this incident of
You know, in Nigeria, in every city in Nigeria, we have housing deficit. It's really reassuring to note that in Rivers State, Governor Fubara has taken it upon himself to initiate housing schemes. There's one close to us there at this airport road, where I think 20,000 housing units. In those days, we woke up to see governors, initiating housing schemes. In Rivers State, you see the likes of SPIF. Those days, Lekaya Housing Estate, Rumebeku Housing Estate, so many housing estates. In some cases, to provide housing for civil servants, to provide housing for some kind of people. You see, I thought that the present administration, the governors especially, should be able to emulate that footsteps. Because housing, it is not easy for somebody to own, to make money to buy a piece of land, to build a house, and to live with his family. if there is a housing policy, as a worker, you key into that housing policy. By the end of the day, a little fraction of your salary is deducted, and in 5 to 10 years, you become a house owner. You become a house owner. So most of the people sleeping under Qatar Bridge, under flyovers and so on, it's not as if they are enjoying it. They are not enjoying it. No. It is, Nigeria is suffering. See, food, clothing, and shelter. These are 3 basic needs. If any government is unable to fulfill these 3 basic needs, that government has failed. And that is our problem. In those under the flyovers, in those terrible rough places, that becomes a breeding ground for drug addicts, it becomes a breeding ground for alcoholics, it becomes a breeding for cultists. So government should be intentional in providing housing. They should prioritize, food, shelter, and clothing. If it is clothing, you can put on one cloth for even 1 week. But especially food, food and housing, they have shelter, very critical, very, very important. So the federal government should rise up. Let them wake up to the realization that the Ministry of Housing is not just there to do administrative work. Let them also build houses. They should also, by way of executive order, instruct some of these states to embark on housing projects. In Bayelsa, the present governor, Governor Diri, is doing fairly well in the aspect of building houses for legislators. Yes, building houses for commissioners. So the moment you become a commissioner and you are leaving office, you already own a house, which is a good thing. So as many people as you appoint commissioner for 8 years, all of them become house owners. Let them replicate it even at the local government level is possible. So by the time we do that, how the hell will somebody, sorry, I'm not an American, how the hell will somebody go to fire service office and sleep there? Except that the person wants to fire up himself. But if you want to fire up yourself, what if there's fire incident?
Sleeping in markets, actually.
Sleeping in markets.
Okay. You're talking about the fire service workers now sleeping on duty?
Not just sleeping on duty. Most of them. See, what happens in Nigeria is that in Abuja, there is housing deficit very acute. So in case you are employed as let's say, you have been employed as a federal civil servant in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. First, you are posted to Abuja, or any other ministry at all, you are posted to Abuja. Except you have a brother or a friend, it will be very difficult for you to own. And again, you cannot be paying transfer from here to Abuja every other day. So the first thing people do is, let's see whether there is an office space where I can lay my head in the morning, they pour water. When Bayelsa State was created in 1996, remember, all the top civil servants were in River State. They went there was no house to stay, nowhere to sleep. So some of them will go sleep in the verandas of some of the offices. In the morning, they wash their faces and so on. Life goes on. They continue. Until people started building houses. Bayelsa is also, Yenagua is also developing. Because if you consider what was obtainable in the year 2000 and now, there is a massive difference. Yes. All
right. Let's look at the next story now. Talking about Bayelsa State developing. If we're going to talk about that, that's going to take us a very long time.
Yes.
I have so much to say concerning that. All right. The House of Representatives has commenced probe on 1.5 billion naira that is meant for the payment of contractors, but allegedly diverted by principal officers of Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. Indeed, the Director of Finance of Ministry, Aloy, has, during an interactive session with the House Committee on Women Affairs, said he only complies with official directives from his superiors, saying that the records are available. The investigation followed a petition by contractors of the Ministry of the House to representatives over non-payment of contracts executed, running into billions of naira. And speaking during the interactive session, the chairman of the committee, Honorable Kafilat Ogbara, alluded that the ministry initiated new contracts not captured in the 2023 budget and diverted 1.5 billion naira being funds for old contractors. And other members of the committee added that the ministry-wide owned contractors awarded fresh contracts in 15 states of the federation, similarly not captured in the 2023 appropriation. Corruption, cases of corruption, allegations here and there. Let's get your thoughts.
First of all, let's understand the budgetary process. When I read that story, I think somebody made the remark that in the previous year, about 13-point-something billion budget was budgeted. 13-point-something billion was budgeted for, but not all that money was released. Now, let's not sensationalize this issue. Let's study. I expect the National Assembly, especially the House of Reps, to study what happened. From my experience, I have discovered that when a budget is made, a budget is a proposal. In some cases, 10 billion may be budgeted for a particular ministry in that fiscal year. But in reality, what was released was 7 or 6 billion. So, before we begin to lay allegations of diverting money, which is a familiar storyline, yes, it's a familiar storyline of chief executive officers, ministers, and so on, diverting huge amount of money while not executing a certain projects or not paying, not meeting certain obligations while they are doing other things. It's real, but I want the National Assembly to take a look at it very well. How did it come about? Was the budget followed? The only point of interrogation there is, if that 1.5 billion was never budgeted for, how did the minister divert it? Where did the minister source it from? Where did she source it from? So it is a matter that is still being investigated.
Yes.
So we cannot, anything we say here may be sub judice. So the only word of encouragement is, number one, the National Assembly should go into the matter, investigate it. It is part of their oversight function. We must, at every point in time, hold public office holders accountable. We must ensure that transparent practices, international best practices are brought to Nigeria. Then we must also ensure that it is not just enough to make an allegation. No, let us also investigate to ensure the person is either guilty or not guilty.
All right.
Yes.
The president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has described as shameful the fact that Nigeria, despite its size, was still generating 4.5 GW of electricity. And the president, who expressed his displeasure when he inaugurated the 31-member Presidential Economic Coordination Council at the Council Chamber, Presidential Villa Abuja, underscored the need for innovative solutions to the country's economic challenges, noting that the importance of public and private partnership is driving economic reforms. Yes, back to the president's statement. It is shameful that we are still in this. Our electricity is still where it is at the moment. Dr. John.
The problem is very clear. In Nigeria, we have not, for the past couple of years, I think during the time of Jonathan, President Jonathan, there was an economic team that was a bit reliable. And the people reposed their confidence in that team. And Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was there. At a point, Sanusi, the central bank governor, was there. Some technocrats were there. Obe Ezekwesili was there, and so on and so forth. But as we speak now, the corruption index in Nigeria is rising. Yes. And we are not attracting so much foreign direct investment in the area of we are not attracting investors in the area of power and energy. So many investors are leaving because of the chaotic business environment. Our business ecosystem is not something so many people believe in now. So many of them believe that even when they come here to invest, they are not going to get money as a return on what? Investment. And that's why you see them living sometimes in droves, especially the manufacturing sector. If I have to provide power, construct a road, build a warehouse to be able to, do my business, where is my profit? Where is my profit? If I have to do all these things to be able to deliver, to be able to supply goods and services, where am I making the profit? Besides, the naira comparatively has been beaten down to such a level that it is no way in comparison with the dollar, which is the currency on which global economy is denominated. I have to buy some of the raw materials outside. So if I bring them here, small 1 million naira I will spend there will give you so much quantum of naira here because of our devalued currency. The foreign exchange industry, the foreign exchange system is also subject to the whims and caprices of some speculators with CBN and other top bankers involved. They are manipulating the system. So these are some of the problems. Ideally, we have suggested that the federal government should bring in investors in the area of the power and energy and power. They can invest here and make money. But again, does the business ecosystem support such investments?
Especially having them stay here.
So many states are indebted internally. Domestic debt is rising among so many states, including Lagos State. So if we are taking loans, there is what we call technolysis in managing an economy. Technolysis simply means, for short, it means for somebody to analyze the economy and identify what we call the growth drivers. If you identify power, of course, you cannot develop without power. Power is a primary sector and a growth driver. Because power and energy will fire and stimulate economic growth in several other manufacturing and so on. Identify some of the key sectors of the economy, pump money into them, grow them. And in 10 years, each of these sectors will in turn pick 1, 2 industries, 1, 2 sectors up. That was the trajectory of Japan when they started developing. Even long after the Meiji Restoration, even after the World War II. That was the same thing Russia did after the Bolshevik Revolution. That in 24 to 26 years, Russia became an industrialized nation. In our case, it's like a man who has 10 children and you are trying to train all of them ended up in JS3. You cannot say you have produced one educated man. So if you have 10 children, why not invest your money in 3 of them? Each of them becomes a graduate, each of them gets a job, and in turn they begin to pick one person. In a generation, you would have produced an array, a formidable array of manpower. But when you train all of them and all of them ended up at JS6, JS3, have you produced an educated?
People have been talking about privatizing this particular sector as that being a way out of the issues that we've been having for a long time now when electricity, as long as electricity is involved now. But isn't that already what we have right now?
We have already privatized.
Why does it still seem like these issues are still there?
We have already privatized the power sector, for your information. But the investors are still far afield. They are not enough. We don't have so many investors. When there is, we always cite the example with the SIM card we buy. In early 2002, when I bought the SIM card, I think it was 25. I bought the SIM card for myself and my wife the same day. I think I spent 52,000 or so to buy just the SIM card, not the phone. But by the time this thing is privatized, you can see Econet, what is that? Airtel is here.
Back to my question now. Is it not already privatized?
What I'm saying is that...
Why are we still having all of these issues? Has the government stopped more investors from coming into the system?
Government is not creating a conducive atmosphere for investors to come in. That's what I'm saying. The ease of doing business index has depreciated. Business failures are now very common in Nigeria. If you accept that your business is failing, why will you pack? Why would GlaxoSmithKline pack and leave Nigeria? Why will the JB syringe in Akwa Ibom pack and leave Nigeria? Why will
all of those companies?
Yes. Why will about 757 companies leave in Nigeria? Some years back, we had Michelin at Transamadi. We had so many West African glass industry where they produce bottles. They were out there when we left secondary school and came. They were established before us. But today, where are they? When you make doing business so difficult, then the companies, because the aim of every investor is simple. Let me invest here and make what? Profit. But when that profit is no longer coming, when the regulatory framework of such policies, such businesses is no longer, the framework is no longer reliable. If I want to get Forex to import materials, I no longer get it timeously, the way I want to get it. Or I am subjected to processes that leads to fraud and so on and so forth. I will be tired. I'll be dissatisfied. What I'll do is, let me pack my and go.
Right,
so the federal government is not encouraging, not creating the right atmosphere for more people to come and invest in the power sector. And again, our indigenous investors are also scared that they will not make profit.
Okay, that's something that should really be looked into, aside some of the measures that we have seen in the papers that have been carried out by the federal government. We actually want to see more, because we want to see more businesses thrive. Now, for the last story now, before we wrap things up, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has assured that the 10th House of Representatives under his leadership is taking steps aimed at actualizing constitutionally recognized roles of traditional institutions and the autonomy for local governments in Nigeria. Now, the Speaker stated this at day 2 of the ongoing Open Week celebration to mark the first anniversary of the 10th House, said that it is in furtherance of the objectives that the House constituted 2 special standing committees to drive the process of actualizing constitutional autonomy for local governments, as well as granting recognition to traditional institutions in Nigeria. He said that the House decided that another committee dealing with issues of states and local governments should come on board to help with this particular goal that they have at hand. Yes, Dr. John, what is your thoughts concerning the local government?
Already there is the AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, has taken a matter to the Supreme Court. And I think they have reserved ruling. The issues surrounding that case are very obvious. One, the Attorney General wants the Supreme Court to interpret why the local government should be autonomous. We have been harping on this thing for a very long time. In a true federalism, like it is obtainable in the United States of America, the municipals or the local governments are autonomous. You know, that autonomy is important. Why? Because in the first place, when there is local government autonomy, the people at the grassroots will have a sense of belonging. Government has been dragged close to the people. Service delivery will be more efficient. And the people at the local government level will have that sense of belonging and to hold their officers accountable. Today, the local government system is not effective because the locals believe that it is the state government that is determining what goes, the money that comes to the local government. So more or less, all their problems are dumped at the footsteps of the state governors. Ordinary matters of buying little things like flying boats in the rural areas, or speedboats in the rural areas, or cars in the urban areas, in the places where vehicles can ply and so on. These are little matters local government chairmen should be handling. In issues of payment of salaries and allowances of primary school teachers is the responsibility of the local government chairman. Apart from that, primary healthcare workers, they are also under the local government. So when you do that, when there is autonomy of the local government system, and when the 774 local governments are allowed to function with autonomy, with some independence, then we'll begin to reap the benefits of grassroots democracy. But as it is today, again, another thing that is important is, there should be constitutional, stated functions for the traditional institution. Putting the traditional rulers, some of them are first class traditional rulers, second class, these are statesmen. Bringing them under the umbrella of, under the control of local government chairmen is ungodly. It's actually ungodly. Some of these people have been governors before. Some of these traditional rulers were governors in the past. Some of them were senators in the past. Some of them were ministers in the past. And you are bringing such caliber of people under the control of people who are near illiterates. Some of them are near illiterates at the local government level. So the National Assembly should spell out the constitutional role of traditional rulers. That is a welcome development. That said, this assembly, if there is one thing the National Assembly, the 10th Assembly should achieve, these are the things. Number one, ensure the local government system becomes autonomous. Not just autonomous as a principle, not just autonomous by word of mouth, autonomous in word and deed. Number two, spell out the role of traditional rulers. Do not bring them under local government chairmen, please. Carve out a role for them so they too can function in their own capacity. A situation where a governor wakes up in the morning, if he does not like the face of a local government chairman, he calls him, look at how you are dressed. Your cap is like the cap of Madame Fodio. You have dethroned you. They will be at the mercy of state governors. They will be at the mercy of, power-drunk local government chairman.
All right, so that should actually be looked into.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. John. We have had a really interesting time with you in the studio today, discussing all of these stories making the rounds in Nigeria today. When I was introducing you, I said you like to talk for development.
Yes.
And you like to see the positive changes of the things that you discuss happen in Nigeria. And we really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you, Anita. All the best.
All right, hope to see you. Hope to have you another time. And we must also thank you for being a part of this conversation. This would not have been possible without you. And join us again. We'll have another interesting episode of the show next week, Sunday. It's Atn Sunday. Don't forget that we are open for advert placement, for bookings and commercials. And you can also connect with us and watch us on all of our socials on Facebook and YouTube. Check us up on Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram and TikTok, check us up on Atlantic TV Network 1. And on X, that was formerly Twitter, we are Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Enidoye Jackson. Thank you for watching. Coming up next is another interesting package. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring